Hello, Mike from the Game Blazers here, and I just bought the Nintendo Switch 2. My wife's boyfriend hasn't fed me in 9 months. Jamal! Oh, man. Jamal, please, can I buy some tendies? I want some change for some tendies, please. Jamal, please. Alright. You two have fun in there.
I think I got the bad ending. The Nintendo Switch 2, aka Nintendo's worst kept secret. Why would they not make a sequel to one of their best selling consoles? Oh, the Switch 2 has already gone through so much controversy. Some complaints are dumb as hell and others are completely warranted. $80 for Mario Kart World, $450 price tag, even more expensive official accessories, game key cards, a mid-launch lineup, fucking paid patches, no upgrade pass, all of this other bullshit. I fucking bought one at launch. I'm a Nintendo fan, not a rational person. This is the first console I've ever bought at launch, and honestly, despite the controversy, I didn't want to wait. I've had a very high attachment rate to the Switch 1, so it wasn't gonna be out of the question for me to get this thing. The original Switch turned 8 years old by the time of the Switch 2's launch, and oh god, you can tell. With barely playable ports, first-party games lagging, and defective controllers that gasp for air the way you breathe at them, new hardware was due a generation ago. It feels like a breath of fresh air for Nintendo of all companies to play things safe for once, and they're still innovating with things like mouse mode on the Joy-Con too. Anyway, let's get this sucker opened. You're immediately presented with the Switch 2 and its Joy-Con controllers right in your face. Bit of a weird layout, but given the fact that this box is smaller than both the Switch and the Switch OLED's box, some design choices were definitely made, that's for sure. You take off the cover and it comes with the dock, AC adapter, the Joy-Con 2 grip, the straps, and an HDMI cable. I wouldn't normally place as much emphasis on something like an HDMI cable, but please use this one. This one supports 4K high refresh rate gaming, so if you got a TV or a monitor that can utilize any of these features, I implore you to use this. It's the little things like this that can improve your experience drastically. After putting on the screen protector, my first impressions of this thing are, it's fucking huge. Dude, this thing's huge. What the fuck? Oh my god. Here it is next to the original Switch. Here it is next to the Steam Deck. And here it is next to some turtle food. I never had a problem with how the original Switch felt in my hands. I know some people despise the hand feel of this thing, but I found it comfortable enough to play on bed or just out somewhere. But the Switch 2? Holy shit, this thing is mad comfortable, and it blows the Switch 1 out of the water ergonomically. It feels so premium, something more akin to the Steam Deck or any other high-end PC handheld. The matte texture combined with the cold metal makes the Switch 2 feel like I'm holding a real piece of kit here. The way the Joy-Cons stick to the side magnetically feels so intuitive that I'm surprised that it wasn't done the first time around. And these bastards stick. I can dangle the Switch 2 from the Joy-Cons and it doesn't feel like it's gonna come undone. And speaking of the Joy-Cons, damn, these feel awesome too. I love the original Joy-Cons in concept, but in practice, they were ass. They felt flimsy for the price, and yeah, they fucking were. They drifted constantly, but by upping the size and giving these things some girth, they feel much better to hold. Long-term durability has yet to be seen, but I think these feel great and are a major step up from the Switch 1. One downside is that they don't use Hall effect analog sticks, which means drift might be a factor once more, but we'll have to wait and see. What isn't a major step up though is the Joy-Con 2 grip. This feels like a downgrade from the original one, which is saying a lot because the original one was bad too. I understand with the way the console attaches to Joy-Cons, a grip with more meat on its bones was going to be harder to engineer. But with the handles being thin and all, it feels very uncomfortable to hold. But at least I wasn't stuck with this for too long. This is the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, and my god, my toes are curling. It may look the same as the first one, but don't be fooled. This controller is immaculate. The analog sticks feel buttery smooth, and the way everything fits in my hands somehow feels better. Again, it looks the same, but somehow the handles feel thinner and easier to hold. It could be due to the matte finish or the type of plastic used, but it melts in my hands in a different way that the Switch 1 Pro controller does. Only problem? This thing is $85 fucking dollars. You can still use the original Switch Pro Con on the Switch 2, and you can get those things for pretty cheap now. But still, if you have the money to spend, I think the Pro Con 2 is a fantastic controller, albeit overpriced as shit. And you can say the same thing about all of these games. God damn. Look, I was gonna buy Mario Kart World regardless, so why not get the game for an extra $50 instead of $80? The launch lineup for the Switch 2 has a lot of variety, though I did want more first-party exclusives. Man, I just realized this launch lineup is just a bunch of old shit. Most of these games are multi-platform from previous generations. You think I wouldn't buy Yakuza 0 for the 3rd time? Well, guess what, bitch? I mean, what exclusives are we even looking at? Welcome Tour? Alright, got my Switch 2 set up and wait, shit, I left my OLED plugged in. No, this is the UI for the Switch 2 and it's exactly the same, which I'm fine with. But the lack of requested features such as themes or hell, even a simple wallpaper option would have been nice. But oh my god, the eShop actually loads now! Finally! I hated going through the Switch 1's eShop because it was a laggy piece of shit. A more curated approach with real recommendations and barely any AI garbage is one of my favorite things about this console. And look over here, game chat! I don't care about it. Gaming primarily on PC, I never bothered with built-in chatting with the consoles. I just use Discord, and seeing that this is essentially a laggier Discord, yeah, I really don't care. It's fine, and it's definitely better than whatever the hell the Switch 1 was doing with its mobile app. If anything, it's a cool option to have to expose young kids to racial slurs. Mario Kart World is the headliner for this launch, and for a game that we've been waiting a decade plus for, this game is absolutely peak. I've put a fair amount of time into this one already. This Battle Royale mode is the mode for the game. It's so damn fun. This game has insane pacing unfelt in any other Mario Kart game I've played. My first impressions were fairly high with this one. GameCube games via Switch Online were also available at launch, and I got the controller coinciding with it. F-Zero GX, Zelda Wind Waker, and Soul Calibur 2 were the perfect games to start with. I was getting my balls yanked by a paracord with F-Zero GX. That game is hard as hell, but damn, this controller made it feel worth it, as it almost feels like a new GameCube controller, though there are minor differences here and there. I can't see a pro Smash player using these, as they feel different enough to fuck up some muscle memory. I also can't see a Smash player dating a consenting adult, but as long as it has the fully analog triggers, then I'm happy. Emulation on Switch Online seems pretty decent as well, so I hope they give us games regularly. This is a really awesome addition. I already mentioned buying Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, and new cutscenes aside, this is a great version of the game to take with you. I also got Cyberpunk 2077 here, and I dogged on this game a couple of years back, but having this on the Switch 2 as a launch title is pretty impressive. All I did was play with the penis menu. This port is pretty damn good. I dare say it runs better here than it does on my Steam Deck. It even supports the mouse mode for the Joy-Con too. I haven't touched this game since I was burned by the launch back in 2020, but I'm more than willing to give it a second chance here since it's actually, you know, fucking finished. I also got Rune Factory here, but I haven't really touched it yet. Judging from the reviews though, it looks like I didn't waste my money completely. These launch titles aren't the best, but they're certainly better than the Switch ones. Sure, you had Breath of the Wild back then, but I'm not even going to continue that, bruh. The Switch 2 has Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but this time they're both actually playable. The higher frame rate and enhanced visuals make these games play at their absolute pinnacle. If you haven't played either, both games easily justify a Switch 2 purchase. I think paying for upgrades is a little stupid though, I can't lie. If you have a Nintendo Switch Online with the expansion pack, these upgrades come with your subscription, but it looks like only a few select games are going to be included with NSO plus E. God damn, what an abbreviation. Which blows. Many PS4 games come with PS5 patches without having to pay for them, so I don't know what gives. This is one of many anti-consumer practices that Nintendo is doing though. Nintendo being allowed to remotely brick your Switch 2 even though you bought it is just stupid, plain and simple. Sure, I can understand mods affecting games negatively, as well as piracy running more rampant than ever, but if you give people the ability to buy legacy titles at a reasonable price, and more importantly, own these games, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. $80 games set a horrible precedent, no matter how good the game is. I'm still reeling over $70 games. Tickets to a movie aren't going to be more expensive if the budget for the movie is higher. And to go back to actually owning these games, if you buy games from the eShop or download them from a game key card, you technically don't own that game. I understand that piracy and leaks affect developers in ways that we can't imagine, but it feels like we are at the mercy of our own purchases, and game keycards are a perfect example of that. In Nintendo's own end-user license agreement, Nintendo outright says you own a license to the game, not the actual game itself. Hell, at least with the PS5, the games are on the disc, even if Sony discourages you from getting disc-based media anymore. We've seen Nintendo shut down the servers to their eShops on older consoles, with no way of legally obtaining these games anymore. Sure, you can re-download your purchased games as long as you have an internet connection, but this ability will be taken away from us sooner rather than later. If you have your qualms about piracy, just remember, if buying isn't owning anymore, then piracy isn't stealing. This video from That Guy Who Games goes into more detail about the misconceptions about the Switch 2 as a whole. It's where I'm getting this information from. There's no way I'm reading that whole fucking EULA. I'll leave it in the description below. I'm just glad first party games won't do this game key card bullshit, as Nintendo games will just be on the carts themselves. But selling these game key cards is going to be a lot harder in the future. I especially hate that games from my favorite developers are doing this shit. You're telling me Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 can't fit in the fucking game cart? It's 4 gigabytes! Cyberpunk was able to fit on a normal game cart. There was no excuse for smaller games to not fit on cartridges like this, especially since developers have done it before on Switch 1. It's just lazy, straight up. Game key cards are more secure, sure, but these are a glorified code in a box. The games that we're gonna get over the years, the ones that are taking up shelf space, are gonna be nothing more than bitter tasting pills in the future. But criticisms of this console aside, I'm cautiously optimistic for the future of the Switch 2. Like I said, I love the Switch 1. Nintendo reiterating on an existing idea and evolving in this hybrid concept is something that everybody wanted. I've seen Reddit threads complaining about Nintendo not revolutionizing their consoles, and I wonder if these people have a fucking dent in their head because Nintendo always makes iterations of their consoles. Even a concept as dumb as the Virtual Boy got a second chance with the 3DS and Labo VR. Nintendo doesn't need to revolutionize with every console they make, but instead improve on a winning formula. I can understand why people wouldn't want to buy this console right now, if at all. The priciness of everything and these anti-consumer practices make the Switch 2 a hard sell right now. But if you did buy it day one like me, there's still merit to owning this console. Even though it feels like a Switch Pro right now if anything, especially with the same UI, games like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Cyberpunk show what this thing is capable of, and I'm excited for future software. I'm lucky enough to be in a position to afford all of this crap, and all I need from this console for the rest of its life is strong software alongside the old stuff. I'm sure this is like the 90 millionth video about the Nintendo Switch 2 because everyone wants to throw their hat in the ring for some goddamn reason. But I'm glad there is discourse about this console because that means people are passionate enough to talk about video games. It gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling to see people bitch and complain. Isn't that right, Jamal? Oh, Jamal, I knew I could count on you. Oh, speaking of, when are you free this weekend, dog?